I would love that. I do want to remind you guys that we follow this thing called the Code of Conduct in all of our operations, and this is an NgConf sponsored event. So I need you guys to go and look at the Code of Conduct and make sure that you agree to it. If you don't agree to it, don't stay, I guess, is the hard reality. But it's really not that hard. The gist of it is be nice, be appropriate, and be professional. And with that said, let me post the link before I move on, actually.
Oh, hi, Alex.
Hey, Alex.
Alex is our good buddy,
Steven beat me to it. Thanks,
nice.
Steven. Dude, it's so helpful. You guys are so helpful. I don't even have to do it. All right. I don't know. I love that. Okay, so my next thing is engage with us. Send me a chat saying you want to be promoted to panelist, and we'll let you show your face and talk to us. And, we've always had people be just super respectful, and people have always made sure that the walls behind them don't have any inappropriate stuff on them or anything like that. So I would just want to welcome you guys to let us know if you want to be a panelist and you want to be able to, engage in that way with the speakers tonight.
Michael says he's panelist worthy tonight, so we'll bring
kids crayon on every.
Oh yes, and even. John too. John is coming on.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so Brooke, can you promote these people?
I can.
Thank you so much.
Yes. All right. Let's see. Oh, and
I'd love to promote you, John.
There we go.
So we'll promote.
Okay, Michael.
Hey, Elise, welcome. Where's everybody coming from tonight? And you're totally welcome to share if you want to. Salt Lake City.
Nice.
So close to my heart. Got it.
UK.
Boston.
Boston. What part of the UK? And Chile.
Thank you. From the UK, Chile, Georgia.
Pleasant Grove, Columbia.
Pleasant Grove, that's a different.
Lethbridge. Nice. Southwest UK. Okay. Very cool. I'm quite jealous. Are you near like Cornwall? Oh, I don't know. Kelowna? John, how do you pronounce that?
Kelowna. That's where I'm from, Jay.
Yeah.
There we go. Yes, Central Florida. Represent Michael.
It's hard for me to pronounce too sometimes.
I just wanted to show off my cool new background.
It's way cool.
I love it, dude. Disney Tech. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yes, we are still hiring.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Very good. I don't suppose you guys hire juniors over there.
We hire interns all the way up to executives.
Oh,
we have some intern openings now.
Do any of them do Angular?
That's all I've been doing lately. Don't you follow me on Twitter and see my Angular rants almost every day?
Oh, I do, but I wasn't sure you'd hire junior Angular developers. But if you will, I have some people to send your way too.
Have them go to disneytech.com.
Okay, will do. Always good. In fact, we're about to have a little promotional spot where people can spotlight for 30 seconds and tell us about your job candidate. If you're looking for a job or work, or if you're a business who's looking for Angular developers, you have come to the right place. And I saw Clara in there. She's from Bogota, Colombia.
All right.
Welcome. Clara is my friend from work. She's so cool.
Oh, nice.
Todd Hale from Payson, Utah.
Yes. So far away. American FARC.
I was like, that's a different.
Sorry, Craig.
I used to live in Lehigh. So.
Did you?
I did, yeah. I have since reformed my ways and moved.
Yes. We like to make fun of those down south people.
The thing is, I was one of them for 6 years. So.
I know. And I lived down there too.
I feel like I can tease because I am one.
I was born there, so I don't have much room to talk.
Right. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. It is so fun to have everybody. Just a reminder, send us a chat if you would like to be promoted and to a panelist. Only panelists can show their camera and chat with us live, and that's pretty fun. And Brooke will promote anybody she sees, say, hey, I'd like to be a panelist.
Totally.
Did we get, I think there were 3 from earlier.
Oh, did I miss somebody?
We got John, Craig Shearer
Oh, Craig.
from New Zealand.
Oh, cool. Okay.
For the second time. Thank you so much for coming back, Craig. You must
I think-
be kind of late where you're at, actually.
Wait, is this the same Craig that did the Angular Arena with us?
Oh, yeah, that was so much fun.
That was fun.
We got to do that again.
He says that's me. Yes. If nobody has heard of the Angular Arena, it was this event that we did back in December, and it was basically just a big trivia night of all Angular, and it was so much fun. We didn't have a very big turnout, so I was kind of disappointed, but I think it was because it was December. We were trying to do something that was a little out of the norm, but competing with the holidays, it just didn't quite go. But be that as it may, it was really successful and really fun. So we want to do it again and just have a big.
It's one of the coolest events I've
Party.
ever been to, and I helped organize it, so I am a little biased, but even Jeff Cross liked it, so
Yeah.
got to be good.
Did his pigs like it?
Yes, they did.
They did.
Totally.
Good question. I know. I'll have to ask Jennifer Waddell about it.
I know Eric and I were just talking about that. If you guys listen to the Angular show.
Mhm.
Oh, that's funny.
All right. Alex says he'll be a panelist, and cool.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and get going. So I need to remind all of you about this incredible event called NgConf, and a lot of us are here because of NgConf. A lot of us have jobs doing Angular because of NgConf, because NgConf has helped spread the knowledge and the careers in Angular around the world. And there are even conferences who have started up all over the world in other countries besides the United States, and it's really cool. And there's a bunch of different ones in the United States after NgConf, but NgConf was the first, so I like to give them props. Okay, so the event is happening April 22nd to 23rd, and it will be fantastic. There will be workshops, I believe, before that.
April 12th. Yep, we do our whole day of free workshops on April 12th, and then 13, 14, 15 is the not free ones, but very, very, very worth it. So
Very worth it.
Yeah.
I will be moderating the Dan Wallin and John Papa series, which is Angular for Architects, which I am super excited about.
should be a good one.
If you haven't seen those guys speak yet, they're phenomenal. But we have so many great speakers, including our very own Preston Johnson doing workshops. And so I recommend.
Preston Lamb.
Sorry, Preston Lamb. Johnson.
That's
Preston
okay.
Lamb. Okay. So another thing I want to highlight is I saw on the Angular NgConf website today, they're doing an Angular Star talent show. So if you have talents besides just programming, come share them and enjoy. It will be fun. There's a form on the website you can fill out to do that. And then the keynotes, I believe, are free. Is that right? Or is it just the one keynote?
Yeah, no, so it's just the one on the first day on the 22nd. So we do like an annual Angular keynote. So that'll be free. And that's with Stephen Fluin and Jessica Janiuk. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. And then Emma Torsky, who's one of their newest team members.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brooke. And come support me. So if you get a ticket, then you can watch me talk, and I will be talking about headless CMS, which you've seen me talk about before, but this one will be just why to use it and how. And then, as always, we have a meetup discount. Thanks to NgConf for supporting meetups. They will give you $100 off your ticket if you put the keyword meetup. Is it just meetup into the code? Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, and you can find details about that at the tickets website as well. All right. So let's get going. There are lots of tickets available, but I will say that tonight might be the last chance you can get a free ticket to NgConf. If you would like that free ticket, you're going to have to compete. I love making you guys compete because you're just so much fun when you do. So there will be 3 prizes, and let me pull up my notes. They're not showing. So the 3 prizes are ticket to NgConf. That's number 1 prize. Number 2 prize is 1 recorded workshop from NgConf. The slight difference this year is that you will get a recorded workshop, not necessarily be in the actual workshop. So you won't be able to ask questions. I mean, you can always DM the speakers afterwards, but it will be phenomenal because you'll be able to pause and take it at your own timing. And some of these workshops can be, you know, they're 8 hours or 6 hours or 4 hours sometimes. Last year I did one on accessibility by the Dowdens. That was so great, so good. Okay, and the 3rd prize is a 6 months Thinkster Pro membership for absolutely free. Thank you to Thinkster, NgConf, and Hero Devs for sponsoring the Angular Utah Meetup. And again, there will be a quiz, and the top 3 scorers on that quiz will get these prizes. So, all right, now I'm going to start the segment of this meetup where you guys are welcome to tell us about job opportunities. And the way that this works is you will put into chat that you would like to talk about an opportunity, or you are a job seeker and you'd like to do 30 seconds to talk about yourself and what you're looking for. So if you are either of those, go ahead and start, throw your name into the chat, and we will make you a panelist and you'll be able to talk. And if we have nobody for, I don't know, a good 30 seconds to a minute, I'll go ahead and move forward. Otherwise, we'll go for about 5 minutes on this. So do we have anybody here who's, okay, we got one. Let's make Alex. Oh, Alex is already a panelist.
He's promoted, yeah.
Yeah, can I start?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alex. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm currently working at Mosaic.tech. Actually, I got my job, this job, by attending one of these meetups where I met Michi. I think Brooke and Eric knows that story very well. And yeah, so we're looking currently right now for more senior Angular developers. But we're also open, like just like hearing out as well what your story is and like how you could contribute. And so just like feel free to check if you have like yeah, the job post there that I posted. So
I love his story, by the way. I think everybody should hear it sometime.
I'm finishing it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Sweet. That'll be great for the NgConf blog. Unbeknownst to Alex, I have spoken to Michi and she absolutely loves you, by the way. So I am super happy for you. That's one of our success stories. Again, let's see if you're interested in showcasing yourself, looking for work, we want to help you. And if you're looking for Angular developers, hit me up, or you can mention it here. So we got Michael Callahan is telling us all about Disney and gave us a link. Do you want 30 seconds to chat it up again, or are you good?
I kind of already did it, but we have all sorts of stuff things are finally starting to open at Disney, not just at parks, or more recently at parks. Disney's streaming services, so Disney Plus has been hiring throughout the entire pandemic. I do know they use Angular. I don't know the details, but if you have questions about what it is like to work at Disney or to how to apply, ping me here or at Walking River on Twitter.
That is so cool. Thank you so much, Michael. And next we've got Jay, one of our esteemed speakers.
I don't know what esteemed, but I will be speaking. I'm on the path to esteemedness.
Okay. He's just like a normal speaker, guys.
Yeah, I'm a normal speaker.
Full disclosure.
my lightning talk, I can be esteemed. How about that? So trellis.org is hiring for anywhere from junior to senior Angular front-end engineers, as well as a back-end developer. We use Nest.js, but I'd be more than happy to discuss any other relevant experience. Again, junior, intermediate, senior, preferably in Canada, but I'm open to applications from anywhere. Just makes it a little bit harder with the US with us. But yeah, front end and back end for building software for charities. You can find more on our website, trellis.org, or I'll put my Twitter in the chat. and you can DM me there.
That is so fantastic. Another cool thing about Jay is that him and his company or companies do Nest on the back end, which is like Angular for Node, and it makes me very happy.
It's awesome. I actually helped write one of the first books on Nest as well. It's on Amazon.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jay. We have Todd Hale. Would you like a second to talk about that? He said reach out to jfaga@mtech.edu to hire interns and graduates from web dev program in Lehigh, Utah.
Oh yeah, I think at Thinkster we hired a couple people there for just short little intern jobs. They have great students there.
Excellent. They do JavaScript, TypeScript, React, Angular, and Node. Let's see. Next up is Ashley. So Ashley Glenn is my friend. She is fantastic. She just graduated from a boot camp in Atlanta, Georgia, and she is looking for that first junior developer Angular job. And we know how tough it is to get that job. So please, if you have junior positions, she is fantastic. I am proud to be her mentor, and I will give her my proud recommendation and continue to mentor her as she mentors me in becoming a better mentor. Please let me know. You can DM me or you can DM Ashley if you'd like. She's Ray Codes on Twitter. All right. Jay says to you, Ashley, hit him up on Twitter. So, all right. I think that's everyone who said that they wanted to speak. Speak now, or we will be moving on. Usually we have a couple of recruiters here, so I guess they didn't make it. All right. I will be moving on. So, oops, looks like I already did move on. Introducing Jay Bell. He is just a normal speaker, everybody. However,
Currently normal speaker.
I do want to read his epic bio. So he is the CTO and co-founder of Trellis.org. Trellis is a social enterprise based in BC, Canada, that builds an all-in-one fundraising tool for charities and nonprofits. Jay is an avid open source contributor, including projects such as NX and Nest, and enjoys building on top of NgRx to expand its functionality. Before COVID, Jay was actively planning, hosting, and speaking at events. This included Startup Weekend and mentorship programs for youth in his community. He currently leads a growing team of 6 developers and is eager to learn about software, leadership, and building a welcoming culture. And here is Jay. I will stop sharing my screen and you can share yours if you want.
Great, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. Share screen. Okay. Can we see that?
Yes, yeah, you're good.
Sweet. Okay. So today we're going to be chatting about using NgRx, specifically NgRx data, which is a library that the NgRx team actually Papa built on top of NgRx to abstract away some of the, well, not some, a lot of the boilerplate of NgRx itself, WebSockets, and Nest to build real-time apps. So who am I? Eric already mentioned who I am, so I won't go through it too much more. The only thing he didn't mention was that I'm kind of a beard aficionado. You can see that I don't currently have a beard, but you can see the different lengths of beards that I've had in the past. I recently had a mustache, but that got vetoed from the girlfriend, so now I do not have a mustache anymore. Okay, so what is NgRx? If you don't know what it is, can you just like say something in the chat? Or, I don't know, raise your hand or something like that. I don't know, can we take a poll? Is that possible?
We'd have to pre-set up the polls, but chat is good. Yeah, go for chat.
So if anybody doesn't know what it is, please mention it in chat so that I can add some more context, but otherwise I'll just continue. So it's a collection of reactive libraries for Angular. We're going to be exploring the NgRx store, which is the underlying library for NgRx data, which is NgRx's state management solution. So moving on. This is the NgRx state management lifecycle. So I pulled this directly from the NgRx website. If it seems like no one no one doesn't know what it is. So this is probably pretty clear to most, if not everybody. But there's a lot of stuff going on here, right? So this is the typical lifecycle flow for store, effects, reducers and all that kind of stuff. But with data, it is simplified down to this. So our component, which is the Angular component, injects the entity data service for whatever your entity might be. An entity could be, a product, or for the demo that we're going to be doing a story for like a Kanban board or like a Trello type system thing. So an entity can be pretty much anything. Usually your app's built around some kind of an entity. So based on that entity metadata, NgRx data is going to, by standardizing how everything's done in the background, know exactly what endpoints to hit, how to reduce the data down into the store, what to do with add, update, delete, all of that kind of stuff. And then the NgRx, or the entity data service, is what actually communicates with the API. So that is quite a bit simpler than this, because most of that is done in the background inside of the NgRx data library. So with this NgRx store and effects, as I'm sure most of you know, this is what our code looks like. Don't take this and try to run it. I don't know if it actually works. I just wrote it up as an example prior to doing this talk. But you can see that it gets bloated really fast, right? NgRx typically has a lot of boilerplate, which you can see here. So what we're looking at is essentially just the get by ID function for a specific entity itself, right? So there's, I can't remember the line count, it's like 50 lines or something like that for just the get. Then you need to implement add, delete, update, get all, et cetera, et cetera. And then this does not include any of the NgRx effects code itself. So the more entities you have, the quicker all of this code grows, lots of maintaining, bigger bundle sizes, et cetera, right? So with NgRx data, this is essentially all you need. So our story, which is going to be our entity for this, like I said, we're going to be doing a Trello type board as a demo. So you have the story, you have the entity metadata. There are other keys on there, such as like the filter function, or sort comparator, plural name. What else is on there? The select ID. So if your primary key isn't ID, you can override the primary key so that NgRx data knows how to set, update, and delete from the store. So maybe your key is a composite key, or maybe it's user ID or story ID instead of just ID. But this is all you need to get started. And then you just define this data service, which is the entity data service. So in this case, is a story data service. It extends the entity collection service base, which is just the NgRx data class that implements all of this stuff in the background for us. So at this point, we now have an Angular service that we can call all of those different methods on. You can call .add or .update or .get, and it'll make the API call for you. It'll do the effects, process the data, reduce it into the store. It even provides you selectors for grabbing the store data and stuff like that. So Tom has a question here. The entity name exists, but isn't an entity a type class? It doesn't need to be a class. It can be if you want, if that's what you're asking, Tom. Here, we're just using an interface because classes are concrete and they get compiled down into actual JavaScript code. So in your client-side bundle, if you don't need the actual class implementation, just use an interface and it gets compiled away when you go from TypeScript to JavaScript. So it makes your bundle smaller. Tom, if that wasn't actually your question, let me know and I'll try and answer it again. So moving on. Okay, so demo. What we're going to go through here is I have two implementations. We have the original implementation with just doing REST calls. And then we're going to go into the WebSocket implementation after. Okay, so, and these are both using NgRx data, to be clear. Okay, so that's the WebSocket one. So here's the REST one. So this is, as you can see, I'm no CSS master. I'm definitely more of a functional programmer, not a UI designer by any means. But we have our columns, 4 columns, different stories that are added into the columns themselves. Oh, did I? Oh, interesting. Okay. Let me just reshare my screen then, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks. I thought I was sharing my desktop, but I guess not. There we go. Can we see the browser now?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, cool. Good to know. Okay, so this is our Trello board, right? With stories in all of the different columns, stuff like that. So this is built using NgRx data. So there's very minimal boilerplate for these different story entities and stuff like that, using material drag and drop, simple. But if we drag them over, we can see that NgRx data here in the Redux Dev tools is actually making these actions for us, and then making the API requests, updating them in the store, and all that kind of stuff for us. So we can add new ones, and then if we refresh, everything's where it was, right? And that is all being done essentially with that snippet of code I showed you that was, 15 lines long or 20 lines long kind of thing. And that's all of the CRUD related information that or CRUD related functionality we're gonna need for doing this. So now how do we take this and turn it into a real-time application so that instead of using HTTP as our transport between the client and the server, we're actually using WebSockets. So that not only does this client update and have its store updated, but also any other client that's on the same route is updated as well. Let's just go back to here. We can see the presentation now, right? Great. Okay, so adding in real-time functionality. One weekend I had a spurt of inspiration, so I built a couple of libraries for this. I separated them out into 3 libraries: the client, the core, and the server, because I know not everyone uses Nest as a backend. But if you do, the server package gives you a bunch of interfaces that you can use to so that your gateway can implement the interfaces and know what typings to return and all that kind of stuff. So it's it helps make your WebSocket events more type safe between the client and the server. So that's why the core is separated, so you can use it independently of your backend framework. So how easy is the Angular code change? Well, this is all you need to do. On the left, we have what we had before. This is the code that's being done or being used for the demo that I showed you, the REST implementation. And then on the right, we just extend socket collection service base rather than entity collection service base. And then that's it. Now your transport mechanism is WebSockets instead of HTTP. Assuming your server support has the gateway set up and all that kind of stuff, obviously, like WebSockets don't just magically work. But the client-side code change is as easy as that. So let's go to a real-time demo now. So we have 2 screens. We have the left screen and the right screen. These are 2 different clients loaded in 2 different browser windows, both connected to the same WebSocket. I'm just going to refresh these to make sure. Okay. So when we update one, you can see on the right-hand side, it also updated. If we move this one over here, updated on the left as well. This is all being done through NgRx data via WebSockets to the server. So you can add new ones, no problem. So this allows you to I'll have multiple people essentially editing your Trello board at the same time, updating stories, moving stories, adding new stories, etc. Obviously, that's very simple implementation, and you might end up with collisions of data, but you can see it working there. So how does this actually work now is the question. Has anyone not used Redux DevTools or not know what Redux DevTools is? Because if you don't and you use NgRx, you should definitely install Redux DevTools. It'll essentially give you a breakdown of all of the actions, the state of, the state of your state prior to the action and the state of the state after the action. So let's look at what's happening here. We drag one story over, right? There's a couple of different actions. Each of these lines, I don't actually know if it works for NGXS. You'll have to try it out, I guess. This is specifically for, Redux type stores. So I don't actually know too much about NgXS. It might work, might not. NgXS also might have a different tool that works for it. Sorry, I could need more help. So here, what we're looking at is we have the normal NgRx data action. And then that will dispatch to the store. Actually, I think I have part of my presentation is talking about this. This is what we're looking for. Okay. So typically what happens with NgRx data, the default implementation, so using HTTP, is the data service will make an action, will dispatch an action. The effect internally will process that action. And then the effect makes the API call returns, effect then dispatches the success or failure action back to the data service, and then the data service will return to the component. Now, one of my favorite things about NgRx data is that you can subscribe to the add, get, update, delete methods on it directly if you need to. Typically, when you dispatch actions, the dispatch method is void. It doesn't return anything. You can't wait for the action to be finished unless you do some other, magic and stuff like that. But with data, you can call, stored data service .add .subscribe, and then get the result back from your API there. And here you can see a bit of pseudocode of how that works internally. So what happens is when you make one of these NgRx data calls, it will generate a correlation ID, which will be unique across that client's app. It'll dispatch the action, and then it'll return a stream of all of the actions that are being dispatched through your store, but filters to make sure that the action being returned has the same correlation ID as the one that was originally dispatched. This means that the success and failure actions that are dispatched from the effect have the correlation ID that the original action had, so that this can then filter through that, find it, return the first one, and then give you back the data. So that's how it accomplishes the .add .subscribe or .update .subscribe functionality. So if you need to subscribe in your component itself, rather than writing an effect for it and stuff like that, you can actually do that with NgRx data. So that's for the default implementation. How does this work for WebSockets themselves? Well, the library lends itself a lot from how the default implementation works. What it does is the data service works as it normally does. There's the effect or the action that's dispatched. And then there's another layer of this action with correlation ID. So the original action will have the correlation ID. And then the WebSocket event will be emitted to the API with a correlation ID. And then the WebSocket event that is essentially the response, the update success or update failure, also has that correlation ID. So now the effect can listen on these success and failure events for the WebSocket, know how to process them, and then emit them back to the data service with the correlation ID. So all the way through, you're using the correlation ID to map all of these actions together so that you can subscribe back to that data service and actually get that value back that you added or updated or deleted. So let's look at the dev tools now that we actually went through that. So, okay. So we'll drag a story over. So on the right-hand side, we moved it on the right. So that means that we're going to have 4 actions seen. The default data update 1, because we moved a story from one column to another. So we were updating its column value. So which is this one, update 1. Then we're going to see the NgRx WebSocket action, which is the update 1. This is the event that actually makes the call to the gateway. Then the success from the WebSocket, and then the success that data will know how to process and reduce and add the values into the store. So let's look at the diff here quickly. So just for everybody that has never seen this tool before, you can see the actual action that was dispatched. So you can see there's the correlation ID in here. Now this is the NgRx data generated action. We have the NgRx data WebSocket action that's generated. then the success, and you can see that the data was returned with the changes. So now it's in column 1, which is the column that we moved it to, right? And then the update, which is essentially the same action as the prior one, but this is the action that NgRx data knows how to process and knows how to reduce into the store. And if we look at the diff, we can actually, sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask you a question about this? I'm very familiar with NgRx, but not with NgRx data, nor the WebSockets thing that you're teaching. And it seems like there's 4 actions here. I'm used to only having 2.
Mm-hmm.
And am I understanding right that this first action, the update 1, is you triggering the call to the backend? And then the second one is the WebSocket saying there's an update available.
No, so the first one is the one that data generates that says, someone call the method on my data service. Okay. That's what that one is. And then because we extended the socket base rather than the entity collection base, that action then triggers this one, which will emit the WebSocket event to the gateway, which is the server, right? And then the success event that's emitted, or failure event that's emitted from the API, is then sent to all of the clients, and then triggers and cross dispatches an action, which is this one. And that would then, the library that we're using, the one that I built, will actually parse the related NgRx data success action from that and dispatch that to the store, so that the store can then, the NgRx data store can then reduce the response data back into the store itself. So I haven't changed or modified how data reduces any information. All I've done is add in this additional layer of, action and success action to handle the events being dispatched and the events being received.
Okay. Yeah, so it's to handle the messages so you can display them here.
Yeah, exactly. And it essentially implements a request response architecture with WebSockets, is what it's doing.
That's fantastic.
So that each action that we're making, so, add or update or delete or whatever, every one of those has a success and has a failure from the server. So, that, you're wondering like, well, why would we implement, request response architecture with WebSockets when we're just communicating? Why wouldn't we use HTTP? Well, we're doing that because now if we go over here on the left-hand side, on the left screen, right, this is another client connected to the same route, accessing the same Trello board, right? And then it's getting all of the success and failures that all of the other clients would have created by changing things and stuff, right? So this left browser didn't do anything. It was just chilling out, viewing the Trello board as it was, right? But because we moved a card from column 0 to column 1, then it received the update 1 success. So you can see that here. I'll go here. So this was the updated event that was triggered from the other client. So now this left-hand browser has that data, and NgRx data reduced that update into the store so that its UI would then update, right? So this one only has 2, or this one has 2 because it has the WebSockets event action that then gets parsed into the NgRx data action, so the store knows how to reduce it.
Did you say you made this WebSocket one?
Yeah.
That's fantastic, man.
Yeah, so I'll just go back here for a quick second. These are the names of 3 libraries, and I'll provide this presentation to all the attendees after the fact, but these are the 3 libraries that I built. So the client is what has the socket, I think it's called the socket collection base or something like that, in it, with all the functionality for parsing WebSocket events and emitting the right actions and all that kind of stuff. Core has all of the typings, and then server has the typings and interfaces you can use to implement in your Nest gateways, so that your Nest gateways, the WebSocket gateways, are all type safe with all of your different WebSocket events, and with the way that the client side of it is expecting them to be sent and returned.
That's hard. So for anyone who doesn't understand the language that Jay speaks, this is a lot. So thank you, Jay, for creating these for the community and giving them away for free.
Yeah, it was a really interesting problem to go and figure out. I had to go read through the NgRx data code to figure out exactly how they were doing the dispatch one action and return the correct success action. But then once I figured out that architecture, I just like kind of duplicated it and used it for emitting events and receiving events kind of thing with the correlation IDs.
Cool.
Okay, so Tom, can you talk about the 10K limit on WebSocket data and how to use GSIP and partitioning of data to send more data? No, I cannot. Good question. But all this is using is Socket.io under the hood. So theoretically, you can configure the Socket.io client to do whatever you want. It's not super, you know, you can't configure these libraries very deeply currently, just because they're initial implementations. Like I'm not even using them in production yet. We will be in the future, but not currently. So, but like anything Socket.io can do, these can do. You could even write a wrapper around the socket implementation and provide a different, like if you don't want to use Socket.io and you just want to use WebSockets themselves, that by all means, that's totally possible with this. So this library doesn't force you to, you know, use Socket.io or WebSockets in a specific way. That implementation is up to the user. On the server, do you support pub sub filtering so you can segment socket events down to the clients based on some kind of filter? Yes. Okay, so that was the next part of this review that we were going to go through. Is this the right one? No, this one. Okay, so that question that Stephen or Stefan, one of the two. I apologize if I got it wrong the first or second time. First one, Stephen. Okay. To Stephen's question, that is implementation specific to you. So all the package supplies to you for Nest is these different interfaces that we can implement. So so what we're looking at right now for everyone that doesn't know is a Nest.js gateway. So Nest.js gateway is essentially a service that listens on a certain namespace for sockets, and then can subscribe to messages, dispatch messages, all that kind of stuff. So our gateway implements this socket into the gateway base so that it knows it needs, query all and update one in these different methods, as well as these socket operation enums, so that the event names are type safe across your full stack, rather than, you typing in a string and missing a letter or whatever kind of thing, right? As well as, excuse me, these socket event body and socket event return. These are interfaces that have generics in them, so that, again, you know what you're receiving and you know what you should be returning. Past this, it's implementation specific. So, when a socket joins a gateway, it's up to you to put that socket in the right room and authenticate that socket with whatever query params are being sent and all of that kind of stuff. But all the library provides you is the typings to make sure that you're sending and receiving data correctly. And then again, don't take this code as gospel. This is a demo app. It uses Mongo. Yeah. But you can see how, so let's go with this update one, because that's what we showed in the demo. We received the message. We updated in the database. And then we emit that update to all of the other clients, the update success, right? So that they can update their UIs, even though they didn't trigger anything. And then we just return the update, and this return emits that event to the socket that originally called the event. So that's how we can get that, request response architecture there. Let's see. Without your WebSocket contraption, all clients would be queuing the database for changes in the data. Yes. So if you wanted to create, an implementation like this, but with HTTP, you'd have to implement polling, which means that you're constantly making requests to the server. You're essentially implementing like HTTP event like sockets, right? Which that's why WebSockets exist. So you don't hammer your API with requests, hammer your database with reads and writes, all that kind of stuff. So hope that was clear. And that's all I've got for that topic. So I'm happy to take some questions right now, or if anybody wants me to go back to a previous slide to go over something to clear it up. I know I probably talked pretty fast.
Looks like people got their questions out of their system early. I know I was one of them. Sorry to disrupt, Jay.
No, all good.
You fielded those questions so well.
Yes, Ashley, you will be getting the slides. I'll PDF them and send them to the chat after this.
Great question.
Okay, I missed the question from Weston earlier. Yes, if you were using the REST implementation, would 4 actions appear in DevTools? No. Let's go back to the DevTools for the REST. Only 2 actions would show up in the REST implementation because we're using the default implementation for NgRx data. So all it says is, here's an act, like I want to add this one, and then it makes an API request, and then it returns the API request, and it says successfully added this thing. So we get the original action and then this success or failure, depending on what happens, right? Because of the way REST works, you actually get that request response, right? It's asynchronous, but you can respond to the request, right? With WebSockets, we don't have that, right? We emit one event and then that's it. We don't you can't be like, okay, emit an event and then listen, wait for that event to return, because that's not how it works. The reason that the WebSocket implementation has the 4 events is because there's the original action for data to know what to do. Then it triggers an action that emits the event. Then it triggers an action for the success of the event, which is actually just a different event, but has the same correlation ID as the second one. And then the 4th one is the data success that has the same correlation ID as the first one. So we're looking at the REST implementation right now. So if you drag one story over, you can see that there's the update 1 and then update 1 success. That's it. No need for the other 2 because REST is inherently request response. Yeah.
We got a question in the Q&A.
Oh, okay.
By Juliano Custodio. I don't know if I said that right. It says, if I had different users, actually, let's click this one.
Yeah, I can actually read it too. So if I had different users using different Trello boards, how would I avoid people from one board to receive the messages of the other board? So how you would do that would be so we're looking at the Nest.js gateway code here now, right? When the socket connects to the database, what you would do is, theoretically, you would have sent some query params with it or some kind of arguments or something like that along with the socket connect event, so that your API knows what socket room to put that socket into, right? So here, what we're doing is we're just joining, stories, which is just the global room because it's the demo implementation. But what you could do is something like this, stories, and then, args. I don't actually know what these values are, so don't copy this. Query params, and then, board ID or board, right? Apparently I cannot type. So what that says is, okay, this socket is now joining this board's gateway, so that only sockets connected to this room actually get the events for that room, right? So this is where you do your authentication. When the socket would try to connect, you'd be like, okay, so-and-so is trying to connect. Do they have access to this board? Yes, they do. Okay, join. Otherwise, no, throw error, and don't allow them into the room, right? And then down here, when you went, client 2, you just have to make sure that you're admitting to the same room that you authenticated that user to. So that's up to you to make sure that you're following right security practices and not giving people access to things that they don't have permissions to. So a room, I guess I could probably explain better what a room is. A room is where, when you connect to a gateway, the socket is put into, you can put the socket into a room so that when you can emit event to a room, and then every socket in that room gets that event. So that's what's happening here with our different clients, with our different WebSocket clients, right? Is both browsers were in the same room. This one emits an event, and then they both get it back, which are the success or failures, right? So.
And we're getting a request to increase your font a little bit.
I can do that once I figure out how to do it.
I think if you're, are you on a PC or a Mac? Oh, you're
Mac.
on Mac. I don't know how to do it on Mac. If somebody knows, throw it in the chat.
If somebody knows how for me to increase the
plus.
font with Command plus question mark or Command
Probably just Command plus.
plus.
The scroll wheel. Who said scroll wheel? We all know Macs never has scroll wheels.
I don't think that works, guys. I can just go into preferences though. Give me 1 second.
You guys are great. Oh yeah, the pinch wave. That probably works.
Oh, that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
There we go.
That request.
Okay. Can you give an example where you think how knowing about a failure would be valuable information to another user than the original? Update 1 can update longer. Yeah, so good question. Where that would be useful, that would be very implementation specific. I don't actually know what that would be, other than if you wanted to alert other users that someone tried to change something that was invalid. Again, the implementation's up to you, so you don't need to emit all the failures to all of the clients. You can just return the failure to the one socket that made the original event. That's totally fine. Like in the code that we're looking at here, let's go down to update 1. I'm not even emitting failure. I'm just assuming that everything's dandy and nothing ever goes wrong, right? But, say you wanted to wrap this in a try catch, then the catch, if you didn't want everybody to know about the failure, you could just return the save update 1 error to just the one socket rather than everybody, right? You wouldn't emit the failure to the room. You would just emit the failure to the one socket that made the initial request.
I thought of a way you could use that though.
Okay.
If you're doing some kind of game and you want to keep it fair and somebody's trying something nefarious and they're, I don't know, it could be a DDoS or something like that, and then letting everyone know that something weird is happening might be worth it.
Yep.
Or alert a specific other server maybe or client that it's happening, and that client can respond to it. So.
Totally. Okay, so Steven, so PubNubs handles this by having each socket connection connected to rooms, a room with a unique correlation ID in the general room. Their responses get sent to the unique correlation room ID. Okay, so that's what Steven was talking about, the question that we just answered. So currently command and mouse scroll wheel. That does not work. And
I owe Henry an
nice try
apology.
Though. Yeah, so there's a million different ways that you can set up the API for all of this, right? Very, very specific to your platform's implementation. My libraries just provide you the typings that you need and the client-side functionality to, implement type-safe WebSocket events that your store can handle and reduce. Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that. So I'll just go to the WebSocket. So what we're looking at here is the Angular component for the WebSocket view, right? All we're doing is grabbing this group stories selector from our data service. This is the exact same selector that's being used in the REST implementation. So your selectors don't change, your service doesn't change, nothing like that changes. Excuse me. The only thing that changes is your WebSocket service implements socket collection service base instead of entity collection service base. That's it. Oh, and you need to call connect somewhere. This is where you would pass in, query params and stuff like that, or additional, socket IO configurations if you wanted to do compression and all that kind of fun stuff.
I do have a question. Should I type it into the chat for a record, or should I just ask?
No, you can just ask. That's fine.
Yeah. So in a case when you have a bunch of servers behind the load balancer and your WebSockets, they're busy serving one tied user that is tied to one of those nodes. And then now your DevOps is rotating those nodes, 10 of them, let's say one at a time, they're upgrading, but they have live sessions. How do you guys handle that?
Well, I mean, this library doesn't really handle that. It's not really what it's meant for. And like I said, we're not using this in production currently. We will in the future. But I guess the answer would be you need to make sure that, well, first off, I'm assuming that you have some kind of, Redis, implementation set up with your Socket.io client, like in this gateway. I can just pull it up. In Nest, we can, for everybody else, excuse me, we can set up, where do we set it up now? Is it in the main? Oh, I actually don't have it set right. This is a demo. This doesn't have Redis set up. But you can actually set up Nest to use Redis as like a
Pops up.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that all your servers are, emitting events to everybody else and stuff like that. But in the case of when you're like upgrading servers or, spinning up new servers and stuff like that, don't really know the best way to handle that. I guess the first step would be making sure that your servers are, they're immutable, so that you're not like tearing down one server and spinning up a new server. You're spinning up a new server and then tearing down the old server once that new one's up, right? So you never change the server, you just create new ones and then destroy them. That would be a good first step, I think. But how the clients that lose connection from the server that gets torn down, make sure that they get updates that happen while the disconnect and reconnect happened. Not really sure the best way to handle that, to be completely honest. Maybe some kind of on reconnect, you can, here, you can go socket.join and then socket.send some kind of, diff information.
Yeah, the reason that I asked is because NgRx is holding the state, and we know exactly where we were when the connection occurred. So I just didn't know. Yeah, you just answered it that this is not being used in the production. So thank you.
Yeah, but I guess what you could do, since, you're right, we do know when it connected and when it disconnected, you could keep a log of the actions on each room that were emitted during a certain time frame, and then on connect you can just query that log and say, okay, give me everything that happened past this, and then you can process them. As long as you're doing it in order, you can process the actions in order to catch yourself back up after a reconnect.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So setting up a Socket.io server for every project, is it necessary? Do you have an experience with Pusher? I have never used Pusher. No. Yeah, I mean, every project, I don't know what you mean exactly by every project. Like my company, we have, essentially one server that handles our gateways. So we only have one Socket.io server, right? So yeah. But theoretically, you could take this library and wrap essentially anything in it that supports WebSockets. So.
Hey, well, thank you so much, Jay, for this awesome talk, and everybody for your questions and participation. This was a really great time, and we will move on to our next talk if nobody has anything out super urgent. And if you do, call 911. That's what they're for. Unless you're in Canada, is it still 911 Canada?
It's still 911 here, yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're in New Zealand or Colombia, there's probably a different number. So find out what that number is and call it. Okay, so moving on. Let me share my screen again. Nope, I don't want you to see that. There it is. All right, time to introduce my good friend and fellow co-organizer of the Utah Angular Meetup, which, by the way, will not be the Angular Utah Meetup for very much longer. We are rebranding, and next month we will be something to be more inclusive and more just better represent what we do now, which is online meetups for the Angular world. So let me introduce Brooke. Brooke Avery hails from the base of the mountains in Salt Lake County, Utah. After earning a master's in education, she found herself increasingly drawn to the world of technology and eventually ventured into a full-stack development boot camp before taking positions as the Director of Operations at NgConf and Chief Education Officer at Thinkster.io. She is the Editor-in-Chief of the NG Champions, a co-organizer of the Utah Angular Meetup, and loves to be part of the Angular community. A summer girl through and through, it's also not unusual to find Brooke somewhere in a galaxy far, far away, with a book and a banana chapstick in hand. And Brooke,
Totally.
I'll turn it over to you.
All right, cool. Well, I'm really excited to be here. Jay, that was a great presentation. Thank you for sharing. This is kind of like, I don't know, this is something that I've been working on for a few years now with Joe Eames. And so it's just trying to take 3 years worth of work and condensing it down into 35 minutes is really hard. So I'm going to try really hard to get through all of this. But yeah, Eric, thank you for introducing me. So let me share my screen here and pull up. I have a bunch of slides I'm going to go through. And let's see. Hopefully I can just bring that over. It's kind of sticking. All right, can you guys see that?
I sure can.
Okay, I'm going to present mode. All right, so yeah, we're going to talk about how to make online courses that stick. And you'll see why I went with that title here in a minute, but let's get into it. So don't need to go through that anymore. Eric already introduced me, but let's just kind of go over where I'm going to go through this presentation. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through all of it just because there's so much really cool stuff. So we'll see. I'll do my best. But first thing I want to do is just start with why. Why should we be interested in making online courses? It's not something everybody thinks about immediately, but I think it's something that you should be asking, and I want to talk about why that is. And then from there, I want to go into the top 3 key ingredients that will make your course stand out above all of the other courses and tutorials that you see. I think especially with COVID, there's been a real influx of all these tutorials and things being made, and I want to help you make one that stands out above all the rest. So we're going to talk about these 3 key ingredients. And then from there, we're going to go just kind of throughout the whole thing. I'll be passing along some best practices, just tips and secrets, things like that. And then if we have time, I'd love to get into the hardware and software that's best for making online courses and how to manage your time. That's probably the biggest challenge with making an online course, is just finding the time and actually sticking to it. So that's kind of where we're headed. Let's just dive right into it though. But I do want to start, before I really go too much further, I want to ask, this is going to be I'm going to have to toggle. Actually, let me do something really quick. I'm going to ask a question, and while you guys are answering, I'm going to rearrange my screens a little bit, get something over here on my other monitor. But I want to ask, what makes a good online course? I think we've all taken them. We've all seen them, whether that's on YouTube or Udemy or even Thinkster. But what do you all feel like makes a really good online course? Where?
I like when it makes it obvious what the parts of the course are so that I can browse through it at my leisure rather than necessarily doing it in the order that the teacher wanted it to be.
Okay. Okay, I'm having real Zoom issues here. Why? I want to be able to see the screen so that I can see what you guys are typing.
Oh, do you have 2 monitors?
I do.
Try your other monitor at the bottom. It at least on my screen, it always sticks it on the other one. And then there's a little panel sticking out from the bottom.
Hang on, I'm going to stop sharing really quick. Sorry, guys. I'm going to move this over.
No problem.
Move this one back. Okay. Okay, there we go. So Tom says, oh, actually, let me get presentation mode back on. All right, now can you guys still see my screen?
It's not sharing yet. Did you pick?
Oh, I did.
Sometimes there's too many buttons to click. Cool. You're getting a lot of feedback on your question, which is good.
Good. But see, it took away the screen again. I
see your screen.
But I don't see the answers is the problem.
I can read them to you if you want.
Yeah, please do. That's probably what we're going to have to do.
I'm going to combine his two into one. Access to the course creator is his. And he says, if you pay for a course, you should have the ability to contact the creator. And then we've got Alex Solis saying personality and easy to follow. Craig Shearer says context. Why is what's being taught important? Josh Black says deep knowledge from an actual subject matter expert. Kevin Kinsey says, I love when there are exercises paced along with the content so I can practice with feedback when I'm learning. And then Craig says, being able to understand what the presenter says. Okay. Stephen Nielsen says, ability to apply what I'm learning or try out what is being taught. Ability to peruse the content and work through it at my own pace. And then Craig offers another practical real-world examples.
Exactly. Okay, I love these answers, and we're going to touch on a lot of these. I want to kind of give you a little bit of background to add to this about how I got into this. So as Eric said, I started in education. I was a teacher for a handful of years, and just long story short, got into boot camp. And immediately I started finding this problem of there were all of these really great developers who were really knowledgeable, very skilled at what they knew, but there's a difference between being good at what you do and being good at that and being able to teach it to other people. And so I was seeing this real discrepancy between going through a course and understanding and following along with what the instructors were saying while they were teaching it. But then by the end of the course, I'd get to the end and I'd just be like, what do? I don't know how to take this and actually go apply it somewhere. And lo and behold, I'm not the only person that feels that way. At first I thought, oh my gosh, I'm like broken or something. Why do I not get this? But as life happened, I ended up meeting Joe Eames, and he's made dozens of courses himself, and he actually has this same concern. And so we started talking about, why is this? Why is it that people go through these courses and perfectly knowledgeable, skilled developer who's teaching the content, but they get to the end and the student still feels like I'm no better off, and they just get frustrated and it's just not a good experience. And so we set out to solve this problem, and it took us a while of going through, we've literally worked with hundreds of authors. It took us about a year to get through a handful of those authors, and bless their hearts, they were really patient with us. It wasn't the best program to begin with, but we just kept plugging away at it and ended up creating a 10-hour course on this exact topic right here of how to create online content that is taking your course from just an average C-level course to like an A+. So that's what we're going to talk about here. But that's kind of the reason why. And but let's get into more of the additional reasons of why should you be making a course. And I think one of the more instant reasons that a lot of people would come up with is income. People see it as kind of a side hustle or just something to bring in money, on top of their income they already have. But and that's true. It can, and it depends on the length of the course and where you've put it, what platform it's on, the topic of the course. So it may do better in certain places than in others, but inevitably you're going to have something of an income. So there is that purpose. And then after that is just personal learning and growth. Do you guys know the best way to learn something? And by the way, I love engagement. I've got my setup now. I can see your chat, so I can read the answers, but I'd love feedback. So if you guys could be putting in answers into the chat and kind of interacting with me, I would love that. Yeah, Michael says by doing it, exactly. John, you hit it right on. Craig says applying the learning. Best way for knowledge retention is teaching. Exactly, Stephen. So putting it into production, yes. But yeah, it is teaching. The best way to learn a topic is to teach it, because you have to become the expert. And that's exactly what happens. So by creating an online course, you have to become that expert. So it's your own growth. That inevitably then leads into all sorts of new opportunities. And again, like as I've worked with all of these different authors, I've seen some really cool things happen with people's careers. In fact, one of our authors just became a GDE, and we've had other authors go on and get $20,000, $30,000 raises because they've established themselves out in the community. They've kind of built a personal brand, and they've put their name out there, and people start to recognize them as the expert. So it can be quite career changing, life changing in ways. And then another reason, this is probably more along the lines of what Joe and I set out to do, is to build the community. And really, this is important because I think we've all kind of heard little rumblings about how Angular is not going to last much longer and whatnot. But I disagree. I think if we are adding to the community, if we're contributing, if we're teaching new developers the skills that you've learned over a career, it'll keep us thriving and continuing forward. And I think that's really, really important. So definitely building the community. But all right, so with all of that in mind, we're going to get into our 3 key ingredients then. So the first one is something called learning objectives. Does anybody know what that is? Can you guys kind of take a stab at that?
I'd say if I'm opening up a course, it's because I want something specific.
Yes.
I want to be able to do something after I'm done.
Yes, exactly. And I'm seeing over here goals for your students to be able to hit after the course. Knowledge, goals, key outcomes, end state of learning. Great, Craig. Yeah, that's exactly what the learners take away from the course. Exactly, Lillian. So, and the reason I put this quote on here, it's from Stephen Covey, but he says to begin with the end in mind. And I think this is something that a lot of people, when they set out to make a course, they don't really consider. They just kind of go, well, I want to make a course and I think it would sound fun to make a blog, so I'll do that. But they don't really think about what is the end purpose. And that really does matter, because if you don't know what your end goal is, then how do you know the roadmap to get students from A to B? So keep that in mind. You need to have that learning objective, and it's called your driving purpose. Where are you focused? Where do you really want to take those students? Again, you need to, like you guys were saying in the chat, you need to consider your goals. And especially, I think, is not just the goals, but you need to identify the skills that are going to get the students there. So you know where you want to take them, but what skills do they need to know in order to get there? And I like to compare it to like learning how to swim. You don't take a child to the swimming pool and say, this is what swimming is, and then push them into the deep end of the pool. Like that's not going to work, right? You need to teach them the little skills, how to paddle, how to float, how to breathe underwater. They need to know those and build one at a time, so that by the end, then they can be pushed into the deep end and no big deal, right? So let's see, what are we getting? Unless you plan on getting new kits, right? Well, that may be a problem. Do you think SMART style goals would be helpful when determining outcomes, or could you lead too much to pigeonholing? i.e., I want my students to build a blog, becomes a blog build. Yes, Kevin, thank you for asking that. And I'm going to put a pin in that, because I'm going to address that. So if I don't answer it by the end, bring it back up, but I think we'll touch on it. So, okay. So we know that what we need to do is start with the end in mind. We need to have our primary learning objective. We need to identify the little stepping stones, the smaller learning objectives that will get us there. But there's something else in here that are called SWABATs. So has anybody heard of this, what a SWABAT is? Dot, dot, dot. Have I stumped you? Okay. So SWABATs, it's actually an acronym, and it stands for students will be able to. So kind of a funny term, but it is an education term. It literally is what we call it. But what you're doing with these SWABATs is coming up with specific learning goals. It's a little bit more than a learning objective, because with this, you're actually identifying the skills that your students need to know. So it's the most essential skills a student should acquire in order to successfully use skills outside the context of the course. It's kind of a mouthful. What I mean with that, though, is that it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. You can go through a course and you can understand what the teacher's talking about. You can follow along. Sure, I understand what that concept is, but being able to take it and actually apply it to your own project after the fact is a totally different thing. It's important that with these SWABAT skills that you're giving students actions. And I saw some people saying that in the chat. It has to be action oriented. So for example, students will be able to deploy. They will be able to design. Students will be able to set up or debug or build. So it's not just, I'm going to build an app and I want my students to, by the end, have their first ever website. That's not enough. If that's all you do, if that's all that you set out for yourself, a couple of things will happen. You'll either not have enough direction, or you'll end up bringing so much additional content that the truly important stuff will get watered down. So by giving yourself specific learning goals and these specific skills that you want students to learn, you're just helping yourself to stay really focused with your course. I think all too often you'll watch a course, and how often do you see the teacher end up going down a rabbit hole, and then you're off, way over in this peripheral topic that really doesn't matter for the purpose of that course. And it just muddles everything down. So it's really important to stay focused. And the way that you do this, I really, really suggest, I know this is something I would always suggest to my authors, and I'd always kind of get some resistance, a little bit of like, oh, do I have to write it all down? But yes, you do. I really suggest it, because for as tedious as it might sound, it does exactly those things that I said. It's going to keep you focused. And really, students can tell when your course isn't focused. They can tell when you start going off on things that are not quite related or taking them down those rabbit holes. So it's important for you. It helps you to save time in the end, and it just creates a higher quality course if you sit down and you identify, okay, here's my primary learning objective. So if that's my end goal, what are the stepping stones that I need to get my students from A to B? What are the learning objectives? What are the SWABAT skills? What do they need to know so that they can effectively do this on their own? Yes, exactly, Michael. It's so true. Writing books, I think, is another great, it really is the same process. You're writing down that material, and you have to stay very focused and on track, don't you? Now hang on, I think. Okay. Yeah, I want to put a pause here before we move on to the next ingredient. And what I want to do is actually have you guys help me a little bit. I want to pretend like we're making a course for beginner programmers. So let's say it's just a course on our primary objective is to make our first ever website. So it's a course on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Very basic, something we all have to start off doing. but I want you guys to say in the chat, or if you want to come on and share some ideas, if that's our primary goal, what are some of the learning objectives and SWABAT skills that would be absolutely essential that we would want to write into our course outline to help our students get from point A to point B? What do you guys think? The use of the type action can also be helpful to know how to scale the program as well. Like be able to describe or define, be able to create. Yes. Okay, so Craig, how to set up your environment? Absolutely. Learning the tools? Totally, Henry. Reasons for using blink tags, aka design elements, and how to use them. Do not use blink tags. Okay, but Tom is actually bringing up an important point. If you're teaching a basic course, students need to learn tags, right? They need to learn how do tags work? What are some of the most important tags? What are some of the essential elements of CSS? When do I start using the CSS as a new beginner versus just doing everything in HTML? Like different things like that. I think I saw some other, how to break down problems into steps. Absolutely. How to start thinking like a developer. Absolutely. Yep. Setting up the environment is a big one. Basic HTML elements, how to style elements, how to manipulate elements in the DOM. Yeah, really, really good. So see what we're doing. Students will be able to style elements. Students will be able to manipulate elements in the DOM. I love that because what you've done is you're not just saying students will understand HTML or students will know what a P tag is. It's like I said, the difference between knowing and understanding versus one of these other action words, like being able to go and do something with it, there's a big difference. I can watch a teacher. I could sit here and watch Eric show me how to use a P tag, for example, and I could watch him demonstrate that. But until I actually go and do that myself, I'm not really learning it. I'm just watching someone else do it and I'm typing along, but I haven't actually applied that knowledge yet. So, and we're going to get into that. It's actually the second learning tip. So let's see, Eric, I thought that too. Oh, okay. All right. So the second element, once we have our learning objective, we know the smaller learning objectives, the stepping stones, the SWABAT skills. We need to talk about hands-on learning. So what is that? This is something in my role at NgConf. I'm the person that puts out all of our emails. I'm the person that puts out all of the tweets and the social media, and I'm constantly, you'll probably get sick of how often I'm saying our hands-on workshops, our hands-on workshops. Why am I always doing that? Why am I pointing that out? I like that. The Boy Scouts use the acronym EDGE when teaching skills: explain, demonstrate, guide, enable. Absolutely. It's always bothered me when creating video courses that we only cover E and D. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, I think, hands-on learning, I think we've all kind of heard that a little bit more. But again, I like this quote because it says that learning is an active process where we learn by doing, and only knowledge that is used sticks in your mind. So totally, unless we're actually going and applying that knowledge, we forget so much of that. The brain just does not have the capacity to remember everything. But if we're using it and applying it in real situations, we're more likely to absorb that information. So why is this important though? Why is hands-on learning so important? It's actually one of the 3 essential types of learning. There are other types of learning, but these are really the 3 most essential. And you can still learn without them. I mean, we know that there are people that can't see and they can't hear, but to be the most effective in the fastest amount of time, these are the 3 most essential. So you need to have visual elements, auditory, and then kinesthetic. You need to be able to manipulate it. touch it, move it around. And especially with programming, we all know, just like I was saying with that example with the P tags, I can understand it. I know what he's talking about, but until I've gone over and I'm actually in the HTML and I can see, here's my head, here's my body, and the footer at the bottom, you know, where do I put the P tag? This is my first time ever doing it. I don't know where to put that, but because I'm having to put it into practice, I'm going to remember that now, because I'm not just watching someone else do it, but I'm doing it myself. So it becomes important that students are able to manipulate it and do their own thinking. They become part of their own learning journey. It's not just somebody else telling them, but they actually become participants in that learning experience. Yeah, students get real feedback. Practice makes perfect, unless you roll up the sleeves and actually do it for yourself. Yeah, absolutely. I love these answers. Okay. So again, it's critical, especially I think with web development, just like with math. Math is kind of a conceptual topic. So with, similar to that, programming is conceptual, and you really have to be able to take those concepts and go apply them to real world applications so that you can see, oh, you mean when I put those angle brackets around the letter P, it actually makes the paragraph that go on my website, right? Do you guys remember that first time when you actually did that? The very first time you made a paragraph or an image come up on a website? It's like, it's the coolest feeling. And, it's that manipulation though.
I impressed a lot of friends in grade school when I learned how to do that.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Okay, so this, I just want to say, is probably, in my opinion, the most often missing ingredient when it comes to creating an online course. I think more often than not, the instructors will, and I think this goes back to the question, sorry, I can't remember who asked it earlier. I'll find it later. But all too often you get into a course and that the instructor is just having you build something. I'm going to start from scratch and I'm going to teach you how to build a website from point A to point B. But they don't often stop and actually have you practice anything. And if they do, a lot of the times what you'll see is them say, okay, pause it here, and then we'll move on. So, and we're going to talk a lot more here in a minute about why that's not the best idea. It works. It does in some ways, but it's not the most effective. But really, I think hands-on learning is the most commonly left out element of creating a course. You've got to be creating opportunities for students to actually go practice what you're teaching. So I want to dive into hands-on learning even a little bit more, but I want you to stop here and think really quickly about going through school yourself, whether that's K through 12 or college, might have been boot camp, it doesn't matter. I want you to think of who were the best teachers that you had and what made them so good, what made them stand out to you as being such a good teacher. And please share that in the chat. Or you can come on and share it too. They cared about me, concerned for the individual. Okay, keep thinking about it, and maybe what I'm going to say will resonate with you a little bit. Have interesting stories. Teach the subject that was fun to learn. Okay. I never did well myself as a student where the teacher was at the front of the classroom lecturing the whole time. And for me, the best teachers were the ones who would teach a little bit and then let the students go and practice something, and not just on a worksheet, but actually go build. Like if I was learning math, we got to manipulate the Legos and learn with the Legos or something like that, build something with clay, those hands-on experiences. It's not, hands-on learning is not the sage on the stage where there's one person who's doing all the talking and they don't really let students go and do their own learning, right? The best teachers know that student discovery and exploration are what that's when learning is at its best, when students are part of their learning process. So again, it's this active versus passive. Students aren't just passively listening, but they're actively engaging. I like this little Star Wars quote here that says, "Why does Darth think we'll learn better sitting down all day?" It's so true. Like, if you can keep learning active, students are going to learn a lot more effectively. So another thing with this is that it's challenging your thinking. Even the most experienced programmers can come to the workshops at NgConf. And, let's say it's John Papa and Dan Wallin. You can have a senior developer come to that workshop, but they may be an expert on something. They may be really skilled on that topic, but if the presenters are teaching it in a new way and giving students an opportunity to really, move things around and do a lot of the learning on their own, you're going to start thinking in a new way that maybe you've never seen before. And I think that's when teaching is really at its best, is when you start challenging their thinking and getting them doing their own learning. It's student generated. Students are coming up with their own answers. You ask a question and you let them go discover that on their own, right? But that actually brings up a question of, if I'm an online teacher and I can't sit there and answer my students' questions, then how do I know that they're doing things accurately? If I give them an exercise, if I go have them go do something, how do I know it's truly accurate? And I kind of just gave the answer there. The way that we can make sure that students are accurate is by giving exercises. But not just that, it's giving solutions. And this, I think, does hit on the question that was asked earlier. If you're going to give your students an opportunity to go practice something, if you want them to go learn how to do something, you need to take the time as a teacher to show them the solution. It's not enough to say, okay, we're going to build this application, pause the video here and go do the next thing, and then we'll come back and I'll move on. You just moved on. You didn't actually address the exercise. So more than just giving the exercise, you've got to actually make a whole dedicated video clip all on, I just gave you this exercise. Here's what I asked you to do. Now let's look at the solution. And it kind of becomes a paired programming opportunity at that point, because you're walking them through the answer step by step. You're thinking about it out loud. You're talking it out loud. And you're giving them best practices. So they're able to hear and understand, my way did work, but I see why your way is better. Or I didn't get that at all, and now you're showing me, so I get it. Okay, so you've got to have that solution. But you've still given your students the opportunity, because you gave them the exercise, and rather than just barreling right into the solution, you've given them the opportunity to potentially learn by trial and error. Maybe they made some mistakes. They didn't get it at all. But because they kind of failed at it a little bit, it'll stick with them more as they move forward. Okay, so giving them those opportunities to really think about things on their own, generate their own answers, but then you giving them the solution so that they can see how it's properly done. And it's kind of that analogy when we all first get into programming, where we all we're compared to drinking water out of the fire hydrant. It's just exploding on us and it's not pleasant. We can't drink all of that water. But what you need to do is make it a more enjoyable experience, right? You need to give them just a water hose so that they can take it in bit by bit. And what I'm trying to say is that you give them just one skill at a time to practice. It's not from, we're going to build this application, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to have to teach you some stuff that I haven't actually taught you yet. I'm going to show you to do this code, but we haven't learned that yet, but that's okay. Don't worry about that. I'll teach you that later. Just ignore this and know that I'm doing it. Well, that's not effective. You've just now introduced concepts to your students way too early. And whether you're going to teach that to them later or not, they now have seen something that's a little bit over their heads, and they get frustrated, they get discouraged. it's not effective. You need to teach them one skill at a time, building layer upon layer so that they can feel successful with doing that one skill, doing that, practicing it, getting good at it, then moving on, right? That brings us into the third key element, which is micro learning. And it makes sense. You don't want to overwhelm people with too much too quickly. You just want to give them the lessons little bit by little bit. So there's this quote here that says, you can't teach people everything they need to know. The best you can do is position them where they can find what they need to know when they need to know it. And I'm going to show you a little bit about what that looks like here in a second. But the important thing here is that you know that science has actually shown us that the human working memory capacity is only 3 to 7 minutes long. It's kind of like our friend Dory. You have to work with what people are capable of. And as a teacher, if you have a video that's 10, 15, 20 minutes long, people are going to zone out. They're going to stop listening. They're not going to, they're not going to absorb that information. But if you cut the videos down to 3 to 7 minutes, they'll be more engaged. As science actually shows, it's 50% more engaged. They'll be listening better. They'll be paying attention more. And learning is 17% more efficient. So I don't know about you guys, but I would much rather take a course where I'm learning 17% faster than not. It's just better teaching, better learning all the way around. So let's see, we've got some comments. Yeah, so Kevin, did that kind of answer your question there about the research with smaller exercises? Now that's not to say though that at the end of the course you can't have a large project. If you've gone through the whole course and you've taught little small exercises all throughout the course, by the end there's no reason why you can't give them a big build and have them do something from start to finish. By then you've taught them all the skills. They should be prepared for that. So there is opportunities for you to do little exercises and larger ones. And I want to show you an example. This is actually the last, I know we're running out of time, but it's the last little bit that I want to show you. And it's just an example of one of the courses that we have on Thinkster. It's our Fundamentals of Angular course. So what we did is exactly these 3 steps. We sat down, we came up with the whole primary purpose of this course. We came up with the experience level of the learner. Did we want it to be super beginner or intermediate or advanced? And then from there, we looked at what are the stepping stones that are going to get us there? What are the skills that our students need to know before they can finish the course successfully? And then knowing our skills, we could look at the exercises that students needed to do. And this actually is only literally, I think, like a fourth of one of our sections of the course. So there's a lot more videos in there, but the point is that these are all only like 3 to 7 minutes long. Very few of them go longer than that. Some of them are a tiny bit shorter, but they're all hitting right in that micro lesson area. And I want especially to point out all of these exercises and solutions. I mean, look at this. We've got 3 lessons, boom, boom, boom. It's just teach, teach, teach. And then we go right into an exercise where they're practicing exactly what you taught in those 3 previous videos. And then you go into the solution. You show them the answer of how you would solve that exercise. Okay, great. They feel successful. They've just learned something, right? And then you go teach them a couple new things. And then you have them go practice that. You show them the solution. And it's just this pattern back and forth. So little by little, your students are gaining the success. They're gaining the skills. And they're building their confidence. And I think really that's huge. If they can feel successful and confident and excited to keep going, they're going to be referring your course out to everybody. They want to go back through it. They're going to be asking you for more content. That's what builds your reputation as the expert. It builds your brand. That's when the real job opportunities come along. So that's it. I mean, that really is, it's as simple as those 3 key elements. I'm going to stop sharing because I don't want to, there's hardware and software. I'll make my slides available to you so you can kind of get an idea of the hardware and software that I recommend. But yeah, I'd rather kind of take some questions if anybody has any. So let me. Okay, why is that not going? Awesome. Yeah. Okay, I think that's it then, Eric. Unless anybody, were there questions? I'm just not seeing any.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any questions
Okay.
yet.
Cool.
I appreciate you shortening your talk because I know you had some more points you were able to give.
That's okay. I think it's fun to just share anything I can, but yeah, you guys can also find me on Twitter. In fact, if you go to, I'll put it in our Slack, or not Slack, sorry, in the chat. So if you guys want to message me at all, if you're interested in making a course, want tips, anything like that, it's Jedi Bravery. Oh, that just went to Eric only. There you go. That's where you can find me on Twitter.
And I want to give a plug for Brooke. She is an outstanding teacher. She has so much knowledge, and her offering to hear your guys' questions on Twitter is like a gold mine of information. So if I were you, I'd take her up on it. I know I already have. So, and it's helped. Brooke is that wizard behind the curtain. You know, except that she knows her stuff, and yet I say she's behind the curtain because we don't always hear about Brooke, but she's made so many things happen at NgConf and at Thinkster, and she's just fantastic. So can't recommend that enough. Also, that course you mentioned, the fundamentals of Angular, completely free, and I just posted a link to it because I was curious. So if you want to go through that and strengthen your knowledge of Angular, I highly recommend it. And that's by one of our sponsors, by the way. So
True.
all right. Well, if there are, oh wait, we have some questions. Kevin Kinsey.
Oh.
You see that?
In the, I don't, where is that?
It's fourth from the bottom, regarding the nature of technology.
Oh. Okay. Using computers during the pandemic, what technologies do you see us using to hit more learning styles in the future? Will we see more engagement of musically oriented people, kinesthetic? I think so. There's so many different platforms and technologies. It's kind of a battle right now. I see a lot of, especially for children, a lot of children's applications coming up. But again, they're all kind of running into some similar challenges of they end up making games that aren't actually teaching. They're more just fun games, but they aren't actually teaching anything. And it is a lot of what we've talked about here. They're not actually getting the students to practice skills. And you know what? I haven't really seen any for programming. I mean, there's Codecademy, but that's not really gamification. And the problem with Codecademy is that a lot of it is specific algorithms. If you don't put in exactly the code that they have dictated, it shows as being wrong. But we all know that there's multiple ways to do code. So I don't know. I haven't really seen anything for music, though. I can't say that I've seen anything that way, but I haven't really particularly looked. So sorry, I can't answer that a little bit better. I do think, though, that there's a huge need. I know that Canvas or Instructure is really trying to push the button on that. They're trying to really kind of up what teachers can give to students and make a really interactive environment as much as possible. So I think there's some coming up, and I do think that COVID definitely spurred that, but I still think it's kind of to come. We haven't really seen anything big yet. Yes, Code Combat is great. That's a good one, Stephen. How can we give better automated feedback? Like, if I understand, Kevin, are you asking like if students actually have questions and they're posting to your course? For instance, if you were talking about there being too many ways to code something. So one thing I always teach my authors is to kind of anticipate the questions. So always put yourself in the place of the learner. If you know that as a learner, you would be coming up with multiple solutions, you can build that into your solution videos. Show the students, here's one way to do it, but oh, here's another way to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think that creates more value in your course. It might take a little bit more time for you, but you can always pre-anticipate what questions and problems that students will run into, and then give them, look, you can do it this way, or you can do it that way. In fact, in that course, in our Fundamentals of Angular course, Joe, in I think it's the very first section of the course, he goes through 4 ways to set up oh my gosh, I'm going to blank on the term. Anyway, point being, he goes through multiple ways to do one thing. So he's not just showing you like, you know, here you can install this using the CLI, or you can install it like manually yourself. So he's just giving you multiple ways to do the same thing. The wrong way to do it has also helped me learning topics and in yeah. And in fact, that's another thing too, Henry. It's okay as an online instructor. It's okay to make mistakes. In fact, I always kind of tell my authors that, and Joe and I talk about this all the time. It's okay for you to make a mistake in your video and have that wrong solution going on for a minute, because then either your students notice it or not. If they notice it, great. They already know something, but maybe they don't know that you've coded something wrong. And then all of a sudden you go to look at the website in action and you're like, wait a minute, why am I getting an error? And then you have to go back and figure it out. And the reason that we say keep that in there is because you're showing these developers how to think through the process of figuring out the bug. There's a bug here. I don't know what happened. Let's go back and look at it. And so you're having to go back and figure out, was it just simply leaving out a letter? Did I mistype something? What did I do wrong? But you're showing students how to solve when there's a bug, and that is majorly valuable. So it's okay to show mistakes. You don't have to be perfect as a teacher. I wouldn't say put tons of that in there. You don't want it to get too lost with that, but it's okay to show it a little bit.
Do you guys hear that music?
Cahoots.
Hoot. It's calling you.
Yes.
It wants to give you prizes. So stop asking Brooke such great questions, because we want to give you prizes. Anyway, thank you so much, Brooke. That was phenomenal. Sorry, let me mute my Kahoot music here. So thanks, Brooke. Thanks also to Jay. Jay had to duck out, but he said he'd watch the video of your talk later on. And also he wanted me to let people know that he would be posting a link to a PDF on the meetup comments, which he has done. So if you guys wanted to link to his drive or to his slides, there it is. And yeah, all right, we're gonna jump into the quiz. So I hope you guys paid good attention, and thank you again for coming. More than ever before, I feel very connected to you guys. I feel like we had such a great time chatting. We had a great time learning together. This is what the community is about. And so share that with everyone you can. Help others to feel a part of this community, because it will enrich their careers and it will enrich their enjoyment as well. So, all right, let me share my screen. Can you guys see You guys aren't seeing the answers, are you?
Not the answers, no.
Okay, so you see the screen. Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead and go to www.kahoot.it, or you can just download the Kahoot app and then put this pin in. The pin is 6943420. Again, that's 6943420. In case we have anybody who's vision impaired. We'll be reading out the questions. I hope we read them fast enough, but if there is anybody who needs special accommodations, please let me know, and I will do my best to help provide for you in future meetups as well. All right, we got 13 contenders. All right, Brooke and I were discussing how we've seen a couple people win a lot of prizes, and while we think that's fantastic, this time we're going to say that if you have won a prize recently, that we are going to take the next person in line. But we still recommend that you participate for fun, because honestly, this is something to bring us closer together and have a good time. So if you have won a prize here at the Angular Utah Meetup, then I hope you will not be surprised if we say, hey, you won a prize already. All right. We got 15 people. Let's see how many people we have in the call. So my participants. We got 19 attendees. I'll wait just one more minute and then we'll get started. Okay, here we go. Hope you're ready. These are some hard questions. Here we go. What does SWBAT stand for, or SWBAT? It's an acronym. We got students will be able to oh, wow, that went so fast. Oh, because you all answered. Wow, everyone got this question right. Well done. That never happens. All right. Quiz. What is the average human working memory capacity? 30 seconds to 2 minutes, 1 to 3 minutes, 3 to 7 minutes, or 5 to 9 minutes?
Ooh.
Done. We got a good number of correct. It also goes by how quickly you answer, I believe.
Yeah.
So we got Crabble in the lead. Make sure that I know who you are by the end of the quiz so that I can hit you up and get your email address, and Brooke can have it to send you the prizes. You don't need to make a course outline as long as you're an expert. True or false? I'm an expert. I never make course outlines.
You don't make mistakes either, right?
Well,
Not Eric.
I don't usually. Notice I left a little room in there for a disclaimer. Well done, everyone. All right, we got Crabble, John W., and Mike C. right at the top. Well done. Dark Winter and Stephen Nielsen. Stephen N., I shouldn't assume. All right, the 3 essential types of learning are... I love this picture because there's a little girl with a bunny looking at her class. That's fantastic.
That is
I wonder how much that bunny is actually learning. Unless it probably has some cotton in its ears. Okay, we got 14. Well done, everybody. Ooh, Mike C. has pulled in the lead. Well done, Mike.
Nice.
True or false? Exercises build confidence and guarantee accuracy, one skill at a time. Tried to put false. It didn't work. Okay. Ooh,
Dun dun dun.
really hot race.
Yeah.
A lot of people very close. Okay. John W., congratulations. You're in the lead. See if you can hold it. Here's that link that I gave you guys earlier. You can go get that fundamentals course and brush up on the basics or learn a little extra if you're new to Angular. What is the primary reason to use WebSockets? HTTP is obsolete. Reduce network traffic, faster page loads, or real-time data. Wow, you guys are fantastic. So fast, I can't even say the whole thing before you. John W., you're in the lead. Mike C., you're close. Oh,
Only
everybody's
3
close.
points.
Wow. NgRx data is ... Wow. I should have put the is there. Makes setting up state for CRUD operations simpler, like NgRx, but a paid license version for many features. The full name for which what's commonly called NgRx, and makes vanilla NgRx obsolete. Well done. Most of you got that one right. Good job. Crabble. Nest is which one of these? A Java framework based on Angular. That's my choice. I can't click it. Node framework known for efficient, reliable, and scalable server-side apps. Well done. I probably should have put Nest.js because a nest is something that birds sleep in. So, all right, John W., well done. You pulled to the lead. You will use blank provided by NgRx data. This is like a Jedi mind trick. You will use this. It might be an Angular component, a service, directive, or an interceptor. A service is correct. That is the thing that we will be using if we're using NgRx data. Okay, Crabble, well done. You pulled ahead again. True or false, JBell has made some free modules and shared them with the community to help with the NgRx data and WebSockets. That is a space satellite. Well done. Okay, here we go. Announcing the winners. Third place, Dark Winter. Well done. Second is John W. And first is Crabble. Congratulations.
Who is Crabble? I have a guess on who Dark Winter is.
I know who Dark Winter is.
Is that Alex?
That's Chris Rabble.
Oh, okay.
Congratulations, Chris. You have won a ticket to NgConf. If you already have a ticket, please let us know so we can give it to somebody else. Let's see. I want to see the full report because Alex already has Thinkster. He won recently. So I'm going to ask
whatever my prize is away.
What's that, Alex? Oh,
I'm
yeah.
Dark Winter.
I'm giving
My
your
boyfriend.
prize away, Alex. Because you
Yeah, that's what
the
I
best
said.
prize of all. You got to hang out with me. So Kiwi Craig. Craig, congratulations. You have won the Thinkster 6 months membership. And John, congratulations. You won the second place prize of the free workshop recording. Oh, Craig's already a member. Give it to someone else. All right, next up on the list is Mitchie. Do you want the 6 months membership to Thinkster? Mitchie. She says, sure. Congratulations, Mitchie. You get
That'll
the
be
awesome
easy.
6 months membership. Normally we do 1 month, so this was really cool.
1 month
Okay.
never seems like enough.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
I
not.
did a 1 month free trial of like some other competitor of Thinkster, and I'm like, I got through 1 training course because that's all they
Exactly.
have time for.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I didn't use it ever again. So, well, they lost my business. But anyway, thank you all for coming. You guys are the best. Please share the Angular Meetup with your friends. Please share the recording after I post it on Twitter and retweet it if you would. Follow me at Eric_Slack. That's ERIK_SLACK. And we will be friends. Thank you very much. And everybody have an awesome rest of your week.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Brooke.